Hi everybody. This is the second video about sort of reading, language, developing these skills in children with Down syndrome. So I'm Wendy Uttley from the Down Syndrome Training and Support Service, and just get this moving, based in Bingley, West Yorkshire. Our website there where a lot of our resources and training can be booked. And what we're going to talk about now is developing literacy skills. A dip in and out, okay? It might not be quite 20 minutes, let's see. So we're looking at reading and children with Down syndrome, okay? And we know that some kids with Down syndrome become very good readers and can read as well as their peers in the mainstream classes. We know that for all children, when they start to read, it really helps with their development of their language and their speaking and their clarity and their working memory, etc. Okay, and you know, we know that it varies widely. My son didn't really develop his writing skills until secondary school, and he's not a big reader. He wouldn't choose to go and pick up a book or something. Okay, but he can read and write, but it's not his bag. You know, he prefers to be out playing football or something like that. So we've got a wide range of children with Down syndrome that in primary school may have taken off, but may not take off until they're teenagers. Okay, but we do know that the highest achievers, children in sort of year 5 and 6 that can write stories that are grammatically correct. Wow, yeah, they've been introduced to reading and literacy skills at a very early age, which is what we're doing in our early intervention groups now. Okay. So what we're going to use is a variety of texts, and the third video is going to talk about the Reading Language Intervention Programme by Down Syndrome Education International, which is a very, very structured intervention programme. This is just a little bit of a nod to that, really, that we're going to use a variety of texts each day. There's going to be something that they find easy to read, so they're going to enjoy it. Might only take them 5 minutes. Okay, and then something that's a little bit more challenging, so it's easing them in. Okay, we're going to start reading activities when they have got about 50 to 100 spoken words, and that could be that they're signing those words. Okay, and when they can match pictures. All right, because we're going to use the matching skills to help with the reading, because the reading is going to be lean on their strength, which is whole word matching, and that is a strength of children with Down syndrome. So around about 2.5 to 3 years of age, and that's about the age that we're bringing in word matching the children with Down syndrome in our groups. So we're going to choose books. Some of this seems sort of quite common sense, but we'll say it anyway. Choose books with one repetitive sentence to start with. You may try and tune the books into, or you may make your own books to be within the sort of the world of the child and the vocabulary of the child, making sure the picture illustrates a sentence. Okay. Now you're going through a little bit of a book and you've read it, and there's 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 words that they're struggling with. It might be because they're new words to them, or it may be that they're just not got the pronunciation right. And what you're going to do is you're going to write some flashcards, okay, quite a decent size, and then you're going to play games with those cards. You know, the games that we talked about in the first video with the pop-up pirate and the magic bags and spinny bottles and all those types of things. Playing those games with those words, and I'll guarantee you the next time you read that book, they will know those words, they will say those words. Okay. You might want to photocopy the book if you've got a photocopier at home or at work, and make little comprehension things for them. And I've got a little bit of an example here from it's the Enormous Turnip. It's an old one, but that's a photocopied page from the Enormous Turnip, and as you can see, there's been words blanked out, and then we've got some words there to fill in, or they could be on stickers to pop in. Failing that, we've had a good bit of fun colouring in. Okay, there's all sorts of conversation you can have to be had while you're colouring in the Enormous Turnip. Okay, and that can really help with comprehension of the story. So the next time you go through, there's a little bit more to talk about that story and begin for you to understand that they understand the story that they're reading. And we've already mentioned, but you might want to make your own books. So for children that are at the early stages of their journey, making books about their family, daddy is drinking, mummy is drinking, dog is drinking. Okay, mummy is sleeping, daddy is sleeping, dog is sleeping. So we're bringing in some verbs there and things. Or you might want to modify books or comics. So, you know, it might be a comic that everybody's really into at school, and it's really tricky to read a comic, isn't it? And you might just want to stick a sentence on the bottom of each page at the level of the reading of that child, so they're able to sort of access that comic. There's an example here of a Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and I should just show you. There we've got sort of writing all over the page, and I've just stuck in "it was too hot." Okay, so that's a bit that you'll read all this to the child, and then we're just wanting them to read those 4 words, "it was too hot," and you can see the space I've got between those, so we can see there's a nice space between each word. Okay, so modifying books by sort of popping your own words in those. Oh, that's an illustration there of the sentence matching the picture in the book. Quite obvious. Right, phonics then. Okay, now the message when my son was younger was kids with Down syndrome can't do phonics. Now, children with Down syndrome find phonics difficult, but we're not going to shy away from it because we need phonics. You know, having phonics knowledge helps with spelling, helps with clarity of speech, and it's something like it's back to the RLI, the reading language intervention. I could talk about it for about an hour. Okay, we've just got a couple of slides here. But we're going to include the children in the phonics teaching that's happening at school. And yes, they're going to need more than that, but we're not going to say, no, they can't do it. Typically, the children have got all the letter sounds, they've got all the speech sounds, but they're using it to help decode words. For the children with Down syndrome, yes, there is still that need, but a lot of the children with Down syndrome are still learning to speak. And so using the phonics is helping them practice their speech sounds. Okay, so we're going for letter recognition, naming of individual sounds, and then trying to link those to the spoken words. So the games that we talked about earlier on are still relevant anyway. So we're going to go for phonics when the child has a sight vocabulary of 30 to 40 words. Okay, we're going to start trying to pull these sounds apart. We use visual and auditory bombardment with the books, words, pictures, anything that will target that speech sound. Okay, and it will continue throughout primary school and maybe for some young people beyond that. Okay, so I'm not saying there's not too much detail there, but it's just, I suppose, to be making you aware that we are going to do that, because I still come across children in schools that are not doing the phonics. Spellings. Okay, we're also going to work on spellings, because spellings and phonics support our clarity of speech, our articulation. Okay, and so improve our speech intelligibility, saying that other people will understand what our children are saying. So as soon as a child is beginning to read, we're going to give them some spellings. Okay, now the simple link words, the high frequency words that typically in reception and year 1 you work in are not necessarily high frequency words for the children with Down syndrome. Their high frequency words are mummy, daddy, their name, dog, cat, things in their life. And so these high frequency words are very difficult to make visual, mean nothing to the child. So it may not be the starting point for the child with Down syndrome. Choosing words that mean something to the child. Okay, and it may be some words out of the reading book that they're working on. Hot, the porridge is hot, it was hot, so hot there. Okay, we want a mixture of nouns and verbs. Okay, adjectives as well. So make things that we can make visual. Words that reflect that they are doing in the phonics, so encourage phonics sounds. But there may just be simple CVC, that's constant vowel constant, the apna words that sound like we say them anyway. Okay. Just another slide on spelling. Being able to write a single letter from hearing the sound. So I'm going Can they write it, or can they choose that from a set of magnetic letters or printed letters in front of them? Can we play I Spy, taking turns? Okay. Now the look, say cover right technique, is something that my son really struggled with, but we took that a step further and we used the lift the flat boards. I'm just going to mark the floating controls. Okay, because if we're having to think about the speech sounds and think about forming the letters, we're suddenly going to be multitasking. Okay, and so even the child that may have good writing and their working memories, you know, on a roll, it still might trip them up because suddenly they're having to do two things at once. And so the way forward I found was using something called the lift the flatboard, which I'm going to demonstrate to you now. So this is to practice spelling, and I've got the word pirate up there. Okay. And so we'd have a look at the word and we'd have a go at reading it, pirate, and then we'd just lift the first one and look at the letter. Sorry, I hope that you can cut that bit out there. Right, so we're going to show you the spelling of pirate, how we can learn it using visuals instead of just having to store it in our head. So we're going to look at the first one. And we're going to cover it up and we tap it. And all we're waiting for is the child to have a say, P. And then as they say P, we lift up the tap, the flap, and I usually say, da-da. And then we look at the next one. P, E, P, E. Cover them up. Tap, 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 P, da-da. Tap, 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 E, da-da. And we'll have a look at the next one. Just do one more for you. P, E, R, P, E. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. P, da-da. Tap, tap, tap. They say, E, oh, da-da. Tap, tap, tap. Da-da. What happens when you lift that up with your da-da? You're visually reinforcing what they've just said. So if they said P, and you've gone, da-da, oh, they were right. And suddenly we're freeing up thinking space and think of the next one. Okay? And then when we've spelt it that way, what I tend to do then is I've got another Velcro strip. I will bring the letters down from here onto here. So they've got the word, and then they can have a go at copywriting it. So we're breaking the task down. They're using this to think about the spelling, and then they're going to do the copywriting of it. Okay, so that's how we're using lift the flatboards to help the child with the spellings. Oh, yeah, a little bit of a picture of it there. That's the spelling, I think, of someone's name, Jake. Writing then. Okay, so we're doing the phonics, we're doing the spelling, we're also going to do the writing. So we're going to do writing alongside reading, that they can make their own black and white squiggles, and those mean something. Okay, drawing attention to letters. Now we know that some children can really struggle and have poor writing skills. Just some ideas here. Using some mud and some plastic animals, shoving your finger around in some wet sand. When you've been able to do it with your finger, putting a pencil around in some wet sand. Trays of salt or hundreds and thousands are really good. If you've got them on a clear surface underneath, it'll show through. So if you're using white salt, get a black dark plate underneath and have one each. Okay, so as you're forming the S, they're going to go forming S. And as you're forming the K, they're forming the K. And thinking about the way you're doing it, because some people form K as a down, in, out. Other people form K as a down, out, out. So you need to give them the same so that they're learning it consistently, because it can cause all sorts of issues. Where do we start at E? It's a bit like a 6, but it's a different twirly thing. Okay. So for them to be able to watch you make them in the sand with the finger or in the salt with the finger while they are, and then moving that on to with a pencil still in the sand. Okay, outline starting points on letters for the children to write. Use dashes, use boxes, making sure the area is bigger. Okay, felt pens are easy on a whiteboard and they can quickly wipe off any mistakes they make. And remembering the visual acuity of children with Down syndrome. Okay, so just giving them a pencil to write with on a piece of paper. They may not see the mark they're making with the pencil. They may not see the line they're being asked to write on. Okay, so making things bolder for them. Okay, taking that pressure off. If they're tracing over words, let's make sure that they can see that. So don't be using yellow and white or anything like that. Making sure it's nice and bold for them And I like to sort of make the bubble writing, and they can just follow it around in the bubble writing for the names. Copywriting as well. Okay, let me just see if I don't think I've got an example. Bear with me. Yeah, there we go. This is for some children, I say just practice the shapes that are in the name. So if it was somebody called, say, Luke, got an L is some downs and the crosses, okay? And then we've got to practice doing this, okay? Whereas if it was somebody called, let's say, Janet, we've got that curve this way, okay? If we've got an S, we've got two curves. So it's practicing things like that. So you can make things that will help practice. That's just lots of circles to practice going around. That's some practicing going this way to get the hand movements. So you can really sort of, for some children, you're just going to practice maybe the first letter of the name to start off with, and then the other letters in the name. Okay, and for some other children, you may just practice writing the name and address. So we've been a little bit, we've moved on a little bit, but what do we need to write in our lives? Our name and address, and I've got birthday on there as well. Okay, so giving them things to write about that makes sense and interest them. Remembering the concrete learners, so practice learning to write things that have meaning to them, and they're going to be useful to them in life. Okay, if the exercise is not specifically writing, let's get some stickers in there or some Velcro words. Okay, use their writing skills if they're good to make things visual, and making sure that everything is correct, that the tabletops are right and the sloping board that may open. There's all sorts of resources out there to help with pen grip and pencil grip. Right, okay, we're going to finish there and we'll do the reading language intervention on video 3.